we're hearing that they are sending Shake Milton and Troy Brown and 1 second-round pick to Detroit for Monte Morris. So there you go. That's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. Not a bad one. Not a bad one. I'm not mad as a T-Wolves fan. We could have done worse. I'm not going to sit here and be like, those were two guys that just weren't in our rotation. So the Minnesota Timberwolves are trading for Monte Morris, which, if you guys haven't been following along, makes sense why they're doing this deal. Monte Morris is a guy who, honestly, he has the perfect juice that this team needs. He's on an expiring deal, all right? So he came cheap, and he's a guy that's going to be able to help this team's second unit, which, let's be honest, we aren't really that great of a second unit. Our second unit hasn't been the best in terms of being able to, when Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards sit, shot creation and just facilitation isn't up to par. So in my eyes, I see this as a move that, like, hey, this is a move that we're able to go out and get ourselves a guy like Monte Morris that, obviously, don't look at his stats from, I would say, last year he was pretty decent with the Wizards. He had 10 points, 48% from the field, 38% from three, and the same thing with the Nuggets. The thing is his stats, that the more of the guy that he's probably going to be for the Wolves is his stats with him as a backup, which were pre-Jamal Murray, pre-going to the Wizards where he was a starter, because he's a solid starter, but he's way better utilized as a backup, a guy who's a career 48% from the field shooter, 10.5 points, 38.9% from three, 2.5 rebounds, 4 assists a night. And he's a little undersized. I'm not going to sit here and be like he's the biggest guy in the world, but he is someone that's going to provide the T-Wolves with what they need, and that's a facilitator in the second unit. And we've been hearing for the last couple days that the T-Wolves were, poking around at guards, trying to find a guy that they could themselves, send. I just think the big problem here was they didn't have a big market in terms of assets and players that they wanted to give up. And so getting a guy who might be a little undersized, but Mike Conley's technically undersized, but still can be very effective on the court when he hasn't been great as of late at getting up to the rim, but he can get, he can attack the basket. He racks up assists. He doesn't really turn the ball over, and he's got great vision, and he pushes the pace in transition. He's like the ideal backup point guard who's an efficient shooter and helps you move the ball around. So for me, I think it's a good deal. And as we look at it, I think the big thing with Monte Morris is what you're getting right here is someone who's going to be able to allow you to shoot and run the second unit. I wonder he's making $9.8 million this season, and he's an unrestricted free agent. My thoughts right here is, how are we going to go about the defense? All right, he's a better option than Jordan McLaughlin, but I do love me some Jordan McLaughlin, and I'm fully aware of that. When you have a guy like Monte Morris, you got to make sure the defense is there. I am surprised that, we've already seen that the T-Wolves have now made 2 separate trades. So I'm curious, what are your guys' opinions on this move? We don't know the exact value yet of the deal, but let me hear your thoughts.